Today, I'm going to be saving you a bunch of time, money, and potential heartbreak because I'm going to be going over 5 different types of women that you should absolutely never date. So if you want to make sure that you do not end up with a woman that will make the rest of your life a living hell, I highly suggest that you watch this video all the way till the end. Now, woman number 1 is called the Morgue. And the reason she's called the Morgue, she's had sex with everybody. And especially if you're watching this video right now and you have not had a lot of sex, right? Maybe you're a virgin or you've only slept with like one girlfriend or very little women. Dating this kind of girl would actually be a nightmare. And to really hammer this point home, I want you to imagine for a second that you had not had a lot of sex in the past, which is great. You're following Christ, maybe you're a virgin, you're trying to stay pure until marriage, and the girl that you're dating has had a lot of sex. She slept with a bunch of different guys. She's had a very extensive sexual past. And every time you think about the night that you guys get married and being able to finally consummate the marriage, thinking about all the dudes that she's already slept with before. Like, imagine the mental toll that that would take on your mind, your security within the relationship, always thinking like,
how do I measure up to the guys that she's been with in the past? Am I as good at sex as these guys were?
It's a bunch of stuff that no man should have to go through, trust me. And if a girl has had an extensive sexual past, she has formed soul ties with all these different men. Our society tries to get you to believe that sex is not that big of a deal, that it's okay, you can have sex with as many people as possible and it's not gonna affect you. Believe me, it's going to affect you. The Bible literally tells us that whenever 2 people have sex, they become one flesh. They literally like morph together in a way. And that's why God tells us that if we are to have sex, it needs to be within the covenant of a marriage. Premarital sex is unbiblical. The best analogy I can give you whenever it comes to having a lot of sex is kind of like the strength of a Band-Aid. But every time you put a Band-Aid on yourself and then you tear it off, it gets less and less sticky over time. If you put it on one time and you just leave it on, it sticks really, really long and hard. But the more that you peel it off and tear it off and reapply it, the less sticky it becomes, right? It loses its stick. And it's the exact same thing with men and women that are having a bunch of sex, right? If you have sex with one woman in a marriage and you guys stay married for the rest of your lives, like that bond is going to be very strong. But if you try and pair up with somebody who has had a lot of sex in the past, your Band-Aid is going to be strong, but hers is not. And so there's going to be a lot of problems within that relationship as a direct result of that. And if you don't believe what I'm saying right now, there are literally studies that back up the idea that if a woman has more sexual partners, she is more likely to get divorced in the future. And it's most likely very similar for men as well. And know that having a bunch of sex is no bueno if you're not married. Now, woman number 2 is the Christian girl. I remember right around whenever I first got saved, I had just recently come out of a 4-year period of my life of dating and sleeping around with a lot of women because I was a full-on degenerate in college. And so I still was pretty like girl crazy. Like I always had a girlfriend. Every other month I was meeting a new girl. And so I thought that after I gave my life to Jesus, it would be no different. And so I continued doing the same things that I was already doing before I got saved while I was in college, of swiping on the dating apps and following a bunch of random girls on social media and going out to the bars and all this stupid stuff that I used to do. But now I was doing it to target Christian women. And so I was going on Instagram pages that were like Catholic or Christian and just following a bunch of random girls on there. And then the girls that would follow me back, I would just send a DM to and try and shoot my shot with. And a few of them ended up responding. And one in particular, I ended up going on a few dates with. And I remember thinking to myself,
Oh man, I don't want this girl to like figure out anything about me because I was such a bad guy. And she's probably so innocent because she's Christian, right? I can't let her know about my past. I gotta be a good boy.
And so we started dating and going on a few dates and hanging out. I thought the whole time that I didn't want her to figure out like my baggage and my problems. And little did I know that as I continued to hang out with this girl, the Christian facade that she had put up started to fade a little bit. Over time, I started to realize that this girl liked to drink a lot. Whenever she would drink, she would start saying some outlandish things. She started getting a little handsy and cussing. It really, really shocked me because I was not expecting this girl to act like that at all. And sadly, we ended up crossing a couple of sexual boundaries that I thought I was never going to go back to. And I'll never forget that this girl ended up telling me while we were like talking in the car one night.
Yeah, I really don't want to have sex with you because I actually have a sex addiction. Like, I'm addicted to sex and I want to be different. Like, I want this to be a good relationship.
And she was like telling me all this stuff. I was like, yo, this is too much. This is not good. I need to get out of this situation. And the relationship ended up ending shortly after that. But the reason I'm telling you that story is because I need you to realize that just because a girl claims to be Christian, like on the surface, and she has John 3:16 in her Instagram bio and she goes to church every Sunday, does not mean that she's actually Christian. You need to be able to test the spirits. You need to be able to use discernment to tell if this girl is truly born again. Because the Bible tells us in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14, that we are not to be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Meaning, if you're a born again Christian and Jesus is your personal Lord and Savior, the only type of woman that you can date and marry is another born again Christian. Not a Muslim, not a Buddhist, not a Catholic, not a Hindu, not anyone from any other kind of religion, because that relationship would be unequally yoked. You two do not believe the same things, and therefore that relationship would be set up for failure. You can't think about this with your wiener. You need to think about this logically. And if you future pace this at all, and you think about,
oh, me and this girl that don't believe the same thing are going to get married and then start a family.
how are you going to raise the kids? What faith are they going to follow? Where are they going to go to church on Sunday? Where are they going to go to school? How are you going to raise them at all if you and your wife don't believe the same thing? There's going to be constant arguments and constant butting of heads. And yes, you're going to have arguments all the time, but not about basic theological concepts that you two should agree on. I've seen that one mistake cause so many different divorces and problems in marriages. You do not want to make the same mistake because you're going to get absolutely effed. Woman number 3 is an attention seeker. This kind of girl, if you take one look at her Instagram, you're going to know everything you need to know about her. Her butt's going to be all over there. Her boobs. She's going to be posting a ton of content, both in reels and posts. She's going to have Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. She's going to have all the social media apps and the dating apps. She's going to have everything. And she's going to be posting 50 selfies a day on top of all of that. And the reason why this woman feels the constant need to be on social media is because she loves attention and validation. And she most likely didn't have the best relationship with her father growing up, and he didn't love her and give her the attention that she needed. And that left this hole inside of her heart that she's constantly trying to fill with male validation. And guess what? That hole will never be filled. She will never have enough attention or enough validation from any man to fill that hole. Only Christ can fill that hole. But these girls are lost, and they try and fill that hole with all the things of this world that will never fulfill them, and they just don't get it. And believe me, if you try and date a girl that is like a social media influencer, or she's always on social media, always trying to get attention from other guys, your attention is never going to be enough. And it's going to cause so many different arguments in your relationship because you're going to be secure in yourself and you're not going to be posting all over social media. And whenever you see her getting all this attention from all these dudes and all these likes and DMs and comments, it's going to make you feel a little insecure, right? You're going to think,
well, if I'm dating this girl and I'm spending all this money and I want to like get married to her one day, then how am I going to do that competing with all these other dudes? It's not going to work.
And she's going to call you controlling and insecure and tell you need to man up and that she's not doing anything wrong. And it's going to absolutely screw with your head and waste your time. So do yourself a favor. If you meet a girl and she loves attention and validation from other dudes on social media, you need to run. Now, if you're enjoying this video so far and you want to join our brotherhood of men on faith-based self-improvement, scroll down, click on that subscribe button right now so that you can see more videos on your homepage just like this one. Woman number 4 is the granny. Now, this one's going to be pretty offensive, especially to the older ladies out there. I came up with this one because one of my good friends from here in Dilly Dally ended up going on a date with this girl who was 29 years old. The funniest thing to me was that his own parents were very against this because he's 27, she's 2 years older than him, and they were like,
Johnny, how are you going to start dating this girl? Like, you're going to have to get married to her within a couple of months because her biological clock is running out. How are you going to expect to have kids? Like, what an idiotic idea. What are you doing?
Hey, that's great parenting right there. But he didn't listen, and he kept going on dates with her, and it went absolutely nowhere. And the reason for that is because he wasn't thinking logically, right? He was thinking with his wiener. He's like,
oh my gosh, this girl's so cute, and she's Christian, and blah, blah, blah.
But he's not thinking further down the line. If you're 27 27, or you're younger than this woman and she's almost 30, and you want to have a family one day, but you don't want to have kids right this second, then how is that going to work? Time is ticking for her. Not only that, but she's also going to be probably much more mature than you are, because just for the simple fact that the male mind matures at a much slower rate than women's minds do. So she's always going to see you as little bro, which is not where you want to be. There needs to be respect in a relationship. If a woman doesn't respect the man that she's with, there is no relationship at all. If you're like 25 years old and younger watching this video right now, you need to find a girl who is your age or below. Don't go after the cougars, these older women. Let older dudes that are in their 30s or in their 40s go after those girls. Woman number 5 is the living beyond her means machine. But this is the kind of woman that has a little bit of a spending problem. And if Dave Ramsey had to link up with this woman, he'd probably have a heart attack and die. Now, in case you're wondering how to spot this kind of girl, it's going to be the woman that has very poor spending habits. Every time you see her, she's buying something new on Shein or any of those random websites that women use to buy random garbage that they don't need. And she's always struggling to be able to pay her bills. She never has any money at the end of the month. Or she could have been raised by a family that was very, very wealthy, and she has no concept of the value of money, and so she just spends her credit card and just runs up $10K a month. You do not want to date a woman that has spending habits like that, because she will absolutely burn through every dollar that you make, son. And if you enjoy saving your money and stewarding your finances properly, you cannot link up with this kind of woman. Instead, you need to find a girl that also understands that God gives us money, He blesses us, He gives us the ability to make wealth, but we, as Christians, need to be able to steward that properly, right? You can't be blowing through every dime that you make, or you're going to be broke, and you're going to put other people in a very horrible position, right? You don't want to be the couple that is constantly arguing about money because you're making all the money and then she's spending all the money. That's going to turn into a lot of headache, a lot of arguments, a lot of problems, and probably no sex for you. And if you don't want to become a walking ATM, I highly suggest that you avoid that kind of woman at all costs. As always, if you are interested in one-on-one coaching or supporting this channel, all of those links are down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that God blesses you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.